What are we hearing as far as Fields, this trade market, which has turned out to be so much less than I expected it to be? Where are we?
Again, we don't know about so much less. What we know is it's not what the Bears hoped it would be, at least initially, right? So they come back from the combine and they get into this regrouping phase. Like, all right, well, so what do we do? Let's wait out the Kirk Cousins situation, the Baker Mayfield situation, maybe the Russell Wilson situation, and then maybe the market changes. Maybe now we can get an offer that's closer to what we were hoping for than what's out there. And then if we don't, then maybe we take what the best thing is and move on. But the Bears, as we've said many times, are going to be deliberate about this process. Ryan Poles said, their GM said at the Combine, he wants to get him traded by the start of free agency to do right by Justin. But more than that, Poles' responsibility is to do right by the Bears and get a good deal. So if the deals aren't what they want, then they wait and they see how the market settles, and maybe there are some suitors there that weren't there last week, or maybe some of them are more motivated.
So look, Harry, there was a moment in time where you and I were having a conversation about what Justin Fields would look like in Atlanta with all of those weapons and the creative offense you might be able to design. Now, far better football minds than mine, which of course I'm just a fan at the end of the day, tell me that the offense they brought in with Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson, that's just the opposite of what you would expect them to do with Justin Fields. So where is it? Who should be calling right now Chicago and saying, yes, Justin Fields, I'm willing to give him a chance. I'm willing to make him my starting quarterback. I'm willing to bet that he can turn into something special.
Well, here are a few teams that I have in mind. Watching the Minnesota situation, right? If you're not going to re-sign Kirk Cousins, that's a spot that Justin Fields could potentially go. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we know Luke Getsy is the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. So Justin Fields has been with Luke Getsy previously in Chicago, and then the Atlanta Falcons as well. So, but here's what's dynamic about the whole Kirk Cousins situation when it comes to Fields. When I look at the Atlanta Falcons and I look at the offense that they're going to be running, well, it's the same offense that Kirk Cousins has been in his entire career.
Right.
So now when you have your offensive install, you have a veteran quarterback that can really unlock these young offensive weapons that you have and help teach things versus having a quarterback trying to learn things. That's the difference when you look at Kirk Cousins right now, in my opinion, than Justin Fields in Atlanta. You have Kirk Cousins, who's thrived in this offensive system his entire career, and he can help guide and teach things on the fly versus trying to learn an offensive system.
Right. It makes all the sense in the world. And that's why we put him there at the beginning of the green list today. All those things make sense. Kirk Cousins to Atlanta makes sense. Justin Fields then to Minnesota feels risky only because trading a young quarterback in your own division that's fraught with peril, yes?
And since Poles got there, the Bears have not shied away from making trades in the division. It's been something they've done, and you've seen like Detroit has done it a couple times in that same division. So, but yes, to your point, if it's a quarterback, that does give you pause. If this guy goes and becomes a star, and now we got to play him twice a year, and then we miss on the pick, oh boy, that's tough.
I just find it hard hard to visualize Minnesota only from this reason, because we know that head coach Kevin O'Connell, the play caller, that's the same system they run down in Atlanta, basically.
Yeah, right.
With Zach Robinson.
Same offense.
Yeah, and it just doesn't, and obviously you're in the same division.
So where? Who?
I think to Harry's point, though, that's critical. You mentioned he turned 25
hold on, guys.
on Tuesday,
Hold on for a second.
Yeah, Harry.
Hold on for a second. Because the system that the Pittsburgh Steelers are running is the same offensive system as well. So we keep putting Justin Fields in Pittsburgh. Well, Arthur Smith ran a version of that Shanahan system as well.
So everybody's running it. But by the point, I think Harry's point earlier about how you're going to have to still work on Justin Fields, right? Like Minnesota makes, again, take him out of the division. Minnesota makes some sense if they're starting over at quarterback. This is a guy who's got a little bit of a jump on it as opposed to a rookie, but he still needs work on his game.
Let me bounce one off you. And a genius by the name of Dan Graziano mentioned this on my radio show the other day. How about the Giants?
I like that one.
How about if the Giants, Daniel Jones, when is he going to be healthy enough to practice? Let's take out of the equation.
Fields get every offseason rep.
That's the point. Well, you make the point. You made it on my radio show the other day.
I would say that makes a lot of sense, because look at the work that Brian Daboll did with Josh Allen. And you talk about a similar athletic profile. You know, Josh Allen, when he came into the league, wasn't the most accurate type of guy, but look what Brian Daboll did with him and got him to be the quarterback that he is right now.
I mean, if you're just gonna write down a list of the traits of the two quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Daniel Jones, there'd be some similarities, but Fields would be way better at all of them.
Fields is cheap this year while you still have Daniel Jones.
Cheap.
He doesn't get expensive till next year when Daniel Jones is gone. I think it makes a ton of sense. I have no idea if they're going to do it.
No, neither do I. In fact, I don't expect them to do it.
Here's the thing about the New York Giants. We're thrusting Justin Fields in the same situation that he started in Chicago. So how much better is Justin Fields going to be able to get? They have an offensive line problem. They have a skill position problem right now. So we're putting him in the same situation that he started in Chicago.
The bottom line is we got to find him a job, though. I mean, someone has to decide they want Justin Fields to be their quarterback. And look, I get it. Maybe I'm the only person left. But I can't believe no one wants to do that. So that got a lot of attention for a variety of reasons. And Ryan, because of his past and all that, sometimes people just have an inclination to want to discount what he says.
Right.
But let's deal with the substance of what he said.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to you?
I think if Caleb Williams is the #1 pick, I think there's aspects of what he said that's absolutely correct. I think that the off-platform stuff, the stuff that Caleb Williams did at USC, you're not going to be able to get away with that in the National Football League. You're just not. These guys are just too big, too fast, too athletic for you to pull those type of things. And that's why, like, for me, I always said I felt like Jaden Daniels is the #1 prospect for me because he does the ordinary things that's asked of a quarterback. He does them better than Caleb Williams. But if Caleb Williams is the #1 pick, he's going to play. Make no mistake about it. You're not going to draft him #1 and sit him for a year. The Chicago Bears just can't do that. He's going to play, and it's going to be trial by fire with him in the lineup from week 1.
The one thing that is worth pointing out, and this came up on the radio show yesterday, and Hembo and I went through an entire list of it. If you look at the 12 best quarterbacks in the NFL, like 9 or 10 of them did not start week 1 of their rookie year. I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, they didn't sit the whole year.
Right.
But in almost every single case, there was at least some period of time before they became the immediate starter.
Yeah, look, I would not discount what Ryan Leaf is saying. Like, to your point, his past is his past, but he's worked very, very hard to put that in the past. This is a guy the NFL has brought to the combine to work with the quarterbacks in past years. Like, he knows what he's talking about.
I agree.
And he may be absolutely right. I mean, like that. Ideally, you can do what the Chiefs did, but ideally, you have like Alex Smith, veteran, playing at an MVP level in front of Patrick Mahomes, so you don't have the pressure to play him right away. So that's the issue. I guess the question would be like, what are the Bears' expectations? Are they going to want to be a contender this year, or are they going to be okay with him taking his lumps and learning on the job? Most teams go that second way, and my guess would be the Bears would too.
Or do you go out and get yourself your traditional bridge quarterback, not Justin Fields, who's a young player still trying to find his career.
He's already there. He could be your bridge quarterback.
I get it, but
Jeff Saturday was saying, no.
I know that, but Jeff is wrong. I mean, I love Jeff, but he's wrong. That dynamic doesn't work. But the Andy Dalton, Gardner Minshew, insert player like that here who might be able to win you some games for a season and see what happens.
It sounds
might
great,
make sense.
but you got to win. I mean, that Chiefs team didn't just muddle along. They were 5-0. Like they were definitely they were in first place all year.
Harry, what do you think?
Well, I think every organization would love to have the luxury of having Aaron Rodgers play so your young quarterback can develop, or Brett Favre play so a young Aaron Rodgers could develop, or Alex Smith so a Patrick Mahomes can develop. In actual reality, that's just not the case, though. When I look at the Chicago Bears, who are they going to play? Who are they going to put out there in front of Caleb Williams? And we're talking about a franchise that has struggled with quarterbacks amongst their history now. We're not just talking about the last few years. We're talking about in their history. And you look at this fan base and how excited they are for a quarterback to come and, be the savior for their football team. I just think Caleb Williams, sometimes, man, you have to take your bumps and bruises. But I will say this, Bryce Young last year, he was the #1 overall pick. I think Chicago's situation is better than what Carolina had last year when Bryce Young played.
Much better.
I think it's extremely better than what Carolina had last year.
But back when I covered the Giants, Eli Manning was starter and David Carr was the backup, right? Former #1 pick. And I remember asking them both one time, like about rest, or versus playing right away. And David said he wished they hadn't played him right away for obvious reasons. And Eli said, I like what they did with me. I played at the end of the year, right? But I got to So to your point, of those 12 guys, what is it, 9 that didn't start week 1? Even if you get a couple of weeks, I think it's great. I just think there are very few teams in position to have that luxury.
I mean, I just wrote these names down: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. None of these guys started week 1 of their rookie year. Many of them didn't start at all their rookie year.
Dak did.
Oh, Dak did. You're right. But he came in behind. You're right. He came in. He was drafted later, but he came in behind Tony Romo. Okay, so take him out. Sorry. So Joe Burrow, C.J. Stroud, and Dak go on the other side of the equation. Guys who did start week 1 of their rookie year. He wasn't intended to when he had the mentor. But you're right. You make a good point. Okay, either way, one way or another, the Bears don't do it just because you feel like you have to. Don't do it because you feel like there's pressure to do it based upon the pick. That said, let's go to Rodgers, because he is, look, it's interesting that a person like Aaron Rodgers, who says so many things, sometimes gets just forgotten about, but I feel like no one has talked about him or them in quite some time. He had this to say about filling out the needs of the Jets this offseason.
We got to shore up the offensive line a little bit to add a couple guys there, maybe get another receiver, but I like our chances, and I feel like if I'm out there, we always got a chance.
So here's what I think has happened. With as is the case with most things, the pendulum just swings much too far. A year ago, when the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, they're winning the Super Bowl and that's it. Now he gets hurt, and they're terrible. They're not even worth talking about. That's not the case either. D. Wood, if they do get a little better offensive line, and they do get maybe one more skill position player, this is a team that won 7 games last year with that defense and no quarterback play at all. If Rodgers is 50% of what he once was, is this a playoff team?
Absolutely. Let's not get it twisted here. The Jets have a lot of talented players on this roster. Yes. Do they have holes on the offensive line? Absolutely. Do they need another wide receiver to complement Garrett Wilson? Absolutely. But this is not a team that doesn't have talent. They have one of the best defenses in the National Football League. They have Breece Hall at running back, who's one of the best running backs that we have in the National Football League. Garrett Wilson, they have talent. They just got to address a couple things. Off and running.
The problem is, every single word the two of you guys just said, you said exactly word for word a year ago. Right? And so, and what happened? Obviously, it fell apart to an extent that we could not possibly have foreseen, but it underlines the fact that Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, is a risk. The fact of the matter is, he could get hurt again. So that's the risk the Jets have decided to take because the upside they think is so high.